from day one. Brit Hume is our Fox News senior political analyst, and these documents show it from day one. Brit Hume is our Fox News senior political analyst, and these documents show it exactly. Brit, let me just show them to the audience so they know what we're talking about. In a hearing, General Carter Ham, who is at the relevant time the head of AFRICOM overseeing Libya, comes out and says to the Congress, I think at the command that oversees Libya, I personally, and I think the command very quickly, got to the point that this was not a demonstration, this was a terrorist attack. And then he's asked by one of the congressmen, and you would have advised as such if asked, would that be correct? Because he was going to a meeting with General Dempsey and Leon Panetta, then our defense secretary. And the general responds, well, and with General Dempsey and Secretary Panetta, that is the nature of the conversation we had, yes, sir. And after General Ham had that conversation with Mr. Panetta and with Mr. Dempsey, they went and they met moments later with the President of the United States. Put it in perspective for us.
Well, indeed, we are to believe now, based on these documents, that this was the military's consensus, at least at that level, the very highest level, and that this was what was conveyed to the President, that this had been a terrorist attack. And of course, famously then, just days later, Susan Rice, then the UN ambassador, now the President's National Security Advisor, went on the 5 Sunday talk shows, as we've all been over this many times, and she portrayed this as a demonstration that got out of control in reaction to a video. And the story never really rang true at the time. It was 7 weeks to whatever to the election. It had about it the scent, to me at least, unmistakable scent of cover-up. And the President has sort of been all over the place on this since. You may recall, Megan, at one point he said, well, I did say it was a terrorist attack the day after, referring to a statement he made when he discussed this, as I recall, it was in the Rose Garden, and he said at the end, you know, we're not going to be cowed by, he mentioned terrorism in a very general way. Yeah, acts of terror in a very general way that was clearly not in direct reference to this particular episode, although this episode was the occasion of his coming out and talking. So, but even weeks later, you know, you remember on The View, he was asked, you know, was this a terrorist attack? He was asked point blank. Well, he said, we're still investigating. Well, the impression was made at the time, and now it becomes, you know, utterly clear that he was told from the outset by his military leaders that it was a terrorist attack.
But what does that tell us? I mean, you know, the President, I suppose, could say there are reasons for not disclosing that kind of thing explicitly when we're conducting an investigation until we know more. We don't want to scare the public. We want to cross all the T's, dot all the I's, know exactly what we're talking about, what we're dealing with before we release that.
But then you say no comment. Then you say no comment, or you don't have to discuss it at all. You don't send somebody out to tell a whopper on every single Sunday talk show. I mean, and you know, that was a person who herself, she was a senior member of the State Department. She had access to intelligence. You know, I don't know. You know, I suppose it'll always be said, well, she just did what the intelligence told her. It's not I've never believed that's what the intelligence said, and what we know about the intelligence was that it wasn't all saying that. So my sense about this is that the impression of a cover-up is strengthened. We'll never wake up elements of the media about this. They've never been interested in it from the get-go, but there it is.
They very much want to talk about a bridge. Benghazi, not so much.
Well, the bridge is a legitimate story, but this is, I think, in many respects, a much more important and a much bigger national story. Yeah. So, but it is, you know, it is always smelled to me like a cover-up, and now we have further evidence, quite strong evidence, that the President knew and let members of his administration, and to some extent himself, tell a false tale about it.
Brit, good to see you.